Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Price. I'm the Events and Marketing Manager at the Shingo Institute at Utah State University. I'm so excited to have Mike Martin with us today. Mike has received the Shingo Publication Award 4 times now. We were able to recognize him last week during the 35th Annual Shingo Conference for his book, Management for Omotenashi. He's a member of the Shingo Academy and a Shingo Examiner, and he's supported many organizations that have challenged and received Shingo recognition over the years. If you haven't had a chance to read the article published earlier this month on the topic we're discussing today, I would encourage you to go to our website, shingo.org, click the media tab and select the blog. You'll find the article there. It's titled Purpose, Passion, and Performance, the Power of Omotenashi in the Workplace. At the end of today's webinar, we'll have a short Q&A session. Each of you have the ability to upvote a question by clicking on the thumbs up icon in the Q&A. You also have the ability to comment on each other's questions. We often run out of time and we're unable to answer all the questions. However, your contact information will be provided to Mike and he can follow up directly with you. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll turn the time over to you.
Hey, thanks, Mary. Always great to be here, and I appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time to be part of the session today. Mary and I were joking. We're always throwing out some different topics, and today is a different one for me, Ikigai. And I've titled today's session, Finding Your Ikigai. And I'll get to how it relates to my new book as it goes, but I'm excited to talk about it. I don't actually talk about this topic in and of itself, by itself in isolation. And I want to relate to it today, my interest in the topic, how I came about it, and really what it means to me in terms of our opportunity to design a workplace that matters. So a little bit about my company. Mary already told you, I've been involved with Shingo for a lot of years, more than 20 years, and really have loved the work. And I will say our focus over time has been to really do to focus on two things. Number one, designing daily management systems, which really keep team-based Kaizen at the center, and then helping to develop leaders who learn to lead with purpose, passion, so that they can reach potential and improve their performance. The new book is really what we're going to center our time on, Omotenashi. I had mentioned Ikigai in one of the chapters as really a central theme around creating a workplace that matters. I introduced the topic of it. I am no expert on Ikigai. It is a concept that is rich and takes on the flavor of those who are using it. Actually, it's got a real personal element to it. But I really interacted with it and connected with it relative to what I felt it meant for us as leaders to create an amazing workplace that was defined by experiences that people really wanted to get out of bed for, where really work was part of their passion and part of their purpose. So today we're going to talk about Ikigai. And so let's start with first, what is Ikigai? When I originally was writing the book and I had met with Yabe-san of Tessay, we talked about this concept. It was not a concept that I was familiar with per se. I had heard the word before. I had seen a TED talk on it, but I really knew not a lot about it. And if you look at the word itself, you're seeing it pop up actually quite a bit. I see a number of books being written on it now. It's got two components. It's got Iki and Gai. And if you translate it, it's really, to live. And then Gai is the value of worth. And as Yohei Nakajima said, the literal translation is the reason for which one lives. But that does the word injustice. Ikigai can be your job, your family, your hobby, or anything else. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be overly significant. It's in essence this idea that whatever brings you satisfaction and a sense of meaning in your life can be referred to as your Ikigai. And if you have an opportunity to Google it, you will very, very quickly run into this model that was put together by Mark Wynn in 2014. And I actually referenced this model in the book. And I reference it because this has become a very, very common way to express Ikigai. And it's Ikigai from the position of what maybe your profession is going to be, your goals, what you should do with your life. And this is what, Mark put it into this context. And a little bit of the background is, if you read into it a little bit more, is that Mark had seen the same TED Talk in 2009 talking about Ikigai, and had really put this together upon reflection and just about what his concept was about this notion of Ikigai. And it has been propagated. I mean, it has shown up everywhere, and people talk about it all the time. What I found interesting, though, is that as I dug deeper into Mark and his definition of Ikigai and researched the word a little bit more, he says in his own words, obviously, I don't know much about Ikigai other than from that one TED Talk. A lot of people say, why don't you do a book, or why don't you do this? Why don't you make something of it, and things like that? I said, it's artistry for me, in that I really didn't think much about it. It was only 45 minutes of my life, and it still grows exponentially, and people write books on it. So for him, this was an exercise of just him listening to a TED Talk and artistically putting together a visual representation of Ikigai. And the interesting thing about it is that if you have an opportunity to go to Japan or to talk to Japanese about the concept of Ikigai, it really is not associated with a profession, a life goal, something big. It is really meant to find a source of everyday satisfaction in those things that are part of your everyday activities. Now, there's another gentleman, Nicholas Kemp, who's written a great book about Ikigai. He's a researcher on it, who said it this way: Ikigai is not a profession or a life goal. Ikigai is about living a life that feels meaningful and worthwhile. It involves feelings and emotions. It's not something you chase or achieve, but instead something you feel. And these feelings and emotions, this feeling of meaningful or worthwhile life can happen because of your relationships. It can be caused because of your hobbies or your activities, or it can really be derived from your work and from the environment you find yourself in when you're at work. And it's this element that was most interesting to me. And it's the element where Yabe and I had many conversations about the concept of Ikigai and his personal interpretation of it. Ikigai is like a lot of Japanese words that conveys more of a concept than it really is one direct translation. And like so many concepts, it really has a component of the translation combined with personal context to really help people explain it and bring it to life. Actually, when I would ask a number of people in Japan about Ikigai, they weren't really able to give a definition, a succinct definition that they felt comfortable with, but it was kind of like they knew what it was anyway. So I think the first thing to understand about Ikigai is that it's emotionally based. It involves feelings. It can be associated with a thing, your child, your spouse. It can be about the meaning of your relationships, the community you're a part of, or even about work. And as it related to work, I really wanted to explore that, because I started to ask myself that if this is really about the reason why somebody gets up in the morning, as you'll hear it called, if this is really about what we find passion in our life, then what would be the implication of being able to have work be my passion? What if work was the reason why I got up in the morning? What if work was the reason why I was excited about the day ahead? And when I thought about this concept and I wrote the book, I really felt like I needed to bring the Ikigai to life and relate it to the concepts I was describing in the book. And the reason is that if you look at the factors that determine your level of Ikigai and factors that determine your level of engagement, they are surprisingly similar. Now, on the top half of this visual is Nicholas Kemp's. These are factors that he defines that are important for you finding your Ikigai or associating an activity or a relationship or an object with your Ikigai. And then if you look below, these are really common factors that we see, whether you're looking at Gallup or Deloitte or other sources of research on engagement. So what it takes to really become engaged relative to Ikigai is a sense of fulfillment, the opportunity for new experiences, a belief in a bright future for yourself, meaning and value in the activity you're doing, being part of a shared community, and the opportunity to improve your self-actualization or become more self-actualized. Well, if we look down below, then we start to see those mirror really, really closely to engagement itself. We need fulfillment, opportunities for growth and development. We want to be part of a worthy cause. We want to find meaning at work. We want to be part of a community. And we want to know that we have an opportunity to make a difference. So when I looked at what influences engagement and I looked at the research of Ikigai, then I said this opportunity to create a workplace where people can feel and experience joy and meaning in everyday activities is going to be critical, because it's also what leads to Ikigai is the same thing that leads to improvements in our engagement. So what do I want you to take out of this? We do just have 20 minutes, so I do want to keep this succinct. How do we create Ikigai at work? Or how do we start to think about how we might transform work to be the place where people show up to have feelings and emotions of fulfillment and to find meaning and become self-actualized? Number one, we need to spend time engaging people with a common purpose. We need to spend time and understand that our ability to align them to the purpose of the organization and have their personal purpose be connected to the organizational purpose is incredibly important. The more that we can create an environment where people can know that their core beliefs and what matters to them also is contributing to the why behind our organization, the more we create an opportunity for us to find meaning and value in the work that we do. Second, we need to commit to Kaizen. If you look back at engagement and if you look at the things that drive Ikigai, you're going to see that it is really about our ability to grow, to develop, to take on new skills, to have new challenges, to become and to reach our potential, and the joy that we feel when we are involved in activities that allow us to bring out our best is really, really an important factor in having us be highly engaged, but also having that activity be associated with our Ikigai. So after you have spent time, or while you're spending time ensuring that we are aligning to a common purpose, you have to create an environment where everybody, every day, everywhere is a core tenet of what we do. We have to create an environment, as I said in Own the Gap, where improving the work is the work. Finally, and this is one that Yabe and I spent a lot of time on, is that you create the opportunity for Ikigai by committing yourself repeatedly in the activity, by exposing yourself in the activity, by spending time in the activity. So if we want to have work be a source of Ikigai, and we know that purpose and Kaizen are key to finding meaning in the work, then we have to commit to discipline to follow up. We've got to foster a commitment to say, organizationally, personally, and as leaders, are we committed to this environment? And are we enabling people to improve each and every day and aligning those improvements to a larger purpose? It's really our ability to ensure that align, enable, and improve are overlapping and interwoven in the work we do and in the improvements that we make. So those are the three things that are critical. Now, as with dimensions of the Shingo model, or as when a lot of the talk that we do relative to Shingo, it is open to you to translate these into specific behaviors and to implement those behaviors and work on them in a way where you feel you are seeing that people are smiling a little bit brighter, their eyes are a little bit more open, they're walking a little bit more upright, and you can see that they are sensing that work now has new meaning and they are proud of their contribution. This is exactly what Tessé did and Yabe did at Tessé. He really focused on three things. Number one, he focused on redefining leadership and saying that Ikigai and creating amazing experiences through omotenashi was going to be a hallmark of what they did culturally. Number two, they spent time allowing people to bring improvements to life through their work each and every day, as represented in their 7-minute miracle, their Shinkansen theater, their process of cleaning the train. And finally, teams themselves and leaders began to develop their own identity. They committed to both Kaizen and recognition, and they sought to bring to life this renewed purpose that Yabe brought to the organization through each and every day activities meant to bring joy to passengers, meant to create amazing experiences, as witnessed here with every begin with a bow and end with a bow, which is an employee idea of just expressing gratitude and respect to the riders of the train that they're able to do their jobs and to bring these amazing experiences to life. So what are some next steps that you can consider? Number one is, I haven't spent a lot of time talking about omotenashi, but in the book, I relate how developing an omotenashi culture, a culture of hospitality, driven by a daily management system that connects leaders and team members, how that really puts us into a position to do those three behaviors we just talked about and bring Ikigai to life. It's really where we bring together experience, or make the experience that someone has each and every day the fuel or the driver behind whether or not they feel motivated to come to work. As I wrote here, when people are treated with respect in omotenashi, they're motivated. When they're motivated, they participate in improvement. And when they participate in improvement, the pride in the work increases, which helps create omotenashi for the customers. When they can do this, they find fulfillment, they find meaning, self-actualization. They actually start to touch upon those factors in everyday work that lead to the opportunity for them to experience Ikigai. Now, if you want to hear more about it, I mentioned this at the conference, had a number of people ask. If you use the QR code, you can find out a little more. We're going to take people through an 8-week process of just helping them understand omotenashi and Ikigai. And if you want to be a part of it, this will just kind of put you on the wait list. I'll let you know some more as it develops. I've got some returning clients that are going to be on it. I've got some new clients to be on it. And we're really going to walk step by step through those three behaviors we talked about and how that's expressed in your daily management system. Now, I was a little bit fast, Mary. I was so worried about my 20 minutes. I usually go long and don't let people have an opportunity to question, that I literally got 2 minutes ahead of time. So I guess I was talking a bit too fast.
That's okay. I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions for you. We do have one right now that asked about the
All
slide.
right.
Are you willing to share?
Yes. Yeah. Is
Perfect.
that yes, I will share these slides with you, Mary.
Wonderful. If anyone else has some questions, we can go ahead and type those in the Q&A and we'll go ahead and read them. We'll just wait here for a moment.
All right. Of course, it's the first time I try to end on my time, and not go over.
It happens once in a while, right?
Once in a great while. I should buy a lottery ticket today. So,
All right, the first question. Sounds like leadership
perfect.
needs to begin first. Do they set the stage?
Do leaders set the stage? I think so, yes. I really believe what I've been working on groups with is really helping to define what we call our leadership philosophy. It's what we believe as leaders. And what I have seen from a number of groups doing it is how it really brings together and galvanizes what we think. And if it's really important to us that people are the ones who are driving not only our cultural transformation, but people are the ones who are really helping us improve our processes each and every day. So I don't think leaders need to be perfect in it. I don't think they should have all the answers. That's where we want to involve people. But I think setting the tone that you believe that work can be more than just improving processes, that we can also help people find their meaning, I think it's an incredible tone to set. And it's already like changing organizations just by setting that tone.
think your comment goes along with this next question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Okay.
When you work with people to help develop this way of leading, what do you find often gets in the way and how do you help them around it?
What often gets in the way and how do you help them around it? I think that part of it is helping groups think through what these, aligned to purpose, create a Kaizen environment, commit to discipline, what it's going to actually look like each and every day. I think that's part of it, is really helping them think through that, helping them move from being really general down to being specific. And in doing that, from doing it with a number of groups, I will usually find a balance between asking the question and getting open-ended responses, and then helping them match that up with what we know are some best practices. I'm really careful not to just say, oh, here's exactly how you do it, because I have groups that come up with a great way to align to purpose, for example, that I've never seen. And it's like, wow, what a great way to draw people into this. But when you get stuck, or if you've not done it, then sometimes being able to leverage off others, basically what we do in Shingo, learning from others can really help that process as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have you considered the challenges this approach faces in a Western culture?
Yes, the challenge I've seen so far is the words Ikigai and Omotenashi. The challenge is not the concept. What we are seeing is that hiring and retaining people is becoming across the board one of the biggest issues that organizations are having. And if you look at what people want from their leader, from the organization, and what they expect from work, or they'll just jump and go, it is all the concepts that we're talking about. I mean, in all honesty, I really was not expecting as much attention that I've gotten from people about the book as I have already, because they are looking at it as the people side of what they're missing. We are talking about how do you brand a culture where work matters and they can matter as being a part of it, versus just a culture of continuous improvement. So do they get hung up on, do you need the word Ikigai and Omotenashi? You don't really. But I use Omotenashi a lot because if you dig into it a little bit more, you find out that how you created a great experience takes a partnership between people and leaders. And I like that. I like what that conveys so much more than a traditional, here's what the leaders need to do to serve others, which I'm not saying is incorrect, but it also brings, here's what team members need to do back so that we can have a great experience together. And I have found the word itself to be quite helpful for people to adopt the philosophy and go, oh, that may be a little bit different than we thought about it before. But do you need it? No, the words are what usually trip people up, to be honest.
Okay. We have a question that asks, do you know of any US-based organizations that have embraced Ikigai?
That's a really good question. I don't really know of organizations that have embraced Ikigai directly that I would say, oh, I went to this organization, you should go check them out. So that's a really great question. Maybe there are more on the line right now that could send some to you, Mary, or put some in the chat if they really know that they're doing it, And part of the difficulty is that I don't really know of organizations that are expressing it like Ikigai. They may have a philosophy of work that is closely aligned to Ikigai, but that part is where, we might miss it. We walk right by and not see it because, maybe they express it in a way that we don't immediately notice. But if we dug in, we'd go, oh, that's super similar to the concept of people finding meaning in their everyday life, as Ikigai. So if you know of a good group, send it to Mary.
Yes, send me.
I'm going to give you homework,
Mary. Information. We'll set up a benchmarking tour. It'd be great.
There you go.
Do you have any tips for leaders with employees resistant to change or constant improvement?
Okay. I might be at one right now. Mary and I were joking about it, that have had some fatigue. Do I have any, okay. Number one is, this is going to sound maybe a little overly simplistic, but I'm big on, I think you need to help people tap into continuous improvement, not being about process, but being about people. I'm a believer that, we are doing this not only to improve the organization, but we are doing it to help the lives of each and every person that works in the organization. And I find sometimes the fatigue is generated because people are feeling like you just keep me asking for more. You just keep wanting more for the organization. You know what I mean? It's like what we can all do for the organization versus what this does back for the organization. I also think that if you're going to create an amazing experience of work, I think you need to look at the process of improvement and ensure that it's actually a good experience. I've had people take my work and see it in a company, and then I talked to one of them and they said, how do you get people to want to do this? After 90 days, they hate us. They don't want to do it anymore. And my first thought was, you basically copied process and artifacts, but you really missed the experience we were creating with people, why they were motivated, how we got them motivated, how we transferred ownership to them, and how we made them part of the creative process. So one of the biggest things that I'm trying to maybe challenge all of our thinking with Omotenashi is, have we thought about designing for experience as opposed to just designing for experiments? And if we just think about what is it like for somebody to actually participate in continuous improvement here, I find it's amazing how many great ideas people come up with or how they look at it a little bit differently.
Excellent. Let's see here. I see an increased trend in experience from the employee perspective. How do we measure experience?
Great question. I don't exactly know. Sorry, that's probably not what you were hoping, but I literally have thrown that challenge out to everyone to say it's hard enough to find people metrics. Do you know what I mean? That people say like, those are amazing metrics. It's always the survey. It's always something else. I mean, I could walk around and tell you what I look like, what I look at in terms of body language, what I look at in terms of participation, things that I want to see in terms of the tone of their voice and the confidence with which they're participating in the management system. I do look at the number of people that are participating and how much ownership they take in it. But boy, a specific great mother of all metrics where I go, here it is. I don't know. I think we'll get better at it if we keep asking that question. I think if people come up with unique ways to look at it, it could enrich us as a community. And I don't know if there is going to be one metric, honestly. I don't know if there's going to be one way to view it. But I think that if we're trying to view it, quantitatively from their participation and from what they're doing to improve, but also qualitative, to their attitude, to their morale and things like that, maybe we can zero in on something that we don't know that it's the most precise in the world, but we look at it and say, you know what, when we walk around, we know that this is happening. We know that we're moving in the right direction.
There's definitely an opportunity there. We have a comment from Robert. He says that to him, this is viewed like the Maslow pyramid. And he said that there's an additional level right after Maslow died called self-transcendence. And he said, when we achieve self-realization, we start doing something for others. And he asks, does Ikigai reflect this too?
Wow, you may be out of my depth on expertise on Ikigai. This may be, Robert, a great opportunity for you to explore it a little more. I mean, just to be super honest with you, it's not, Ikigai as a concept is not my primary work. Ikigai as a concept that leads us to the work of designing for experience is more the side that I'm on. So it's a great question. And if you come back with an amazing answer, maybe Mary calls you up and says, Robert, get 20 minutes worth of slides ready. You're on, buddy. But that's a great question. That's a little bit out of my depth.
Sounds good. Another question, how would senior executives know they are truly committed to this kind of cultural change and not just believe that they are?
I'm really shooting for how it's translating out through behavior. It's really aligned with what we talk about with the Shingo model a lot, which is, okay, if we're going to define our beliefs, if we're going to paint a vision of the future, which is inspiring and really helps you see where we're going culturally, if we translate that out through strategy, then we're going to help set behavioral standards that are in alignment with creating amazing experiences through the management system. And so what the groups I'm working with, we're really pushing to get down to that behavioral level. Maybe not exactly the same behaviors, but similar that you might have seen as you go through Shingo workshops. But this idea that, exactly like Shingo says, unless we can define it as a behavior, as something observable that we can record, that we can kind of all agree is present in there, then we're probably not going to know that we're committed to it. Because what we want to see is, I want to see a Motonashi in action. I want to see putting great experiences, bringing them to life at each level of the organization. And so we're really driving it to examples of behaviors as to what having a great experience looks like and means.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all that we have time for. Thank you so much, Mike, for presenting today. And thanks to all of
Hey,
our.
thanks, everybody.
Have a great rest
Great
of
to
the
see
day.
everybody. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.